Welcome back. So now that we have some data in our database, it's time to get started with actually using that data and returning that data with our controller. So opening up our web API to get the data from the actual database. Let's start at the beginning right here. If we go to our genres controller, that's the one I want to start out with. We actually have a very simple solution right here that's already built for us for reading all the different genres. Let's try and use it. So if I jump into Swagger right here, you'll notice here's the genres. I'll open that one, I'll try it out, and I'll fail because right now I get a not implemented exception right here because I actually haven't implemented the method to find all in the repository. So we'll have to fix that so we can start reading the data from the database. So that'll be the first thing I'll try and learn you guys right here, how you can actually get the data from a database using context to get that data. First of all, you get the path now. We're starting with the controller talking to the service. If I open up the service right here, it goes through the interface and then it ends up here at this implementation right here. Now the read all pretty much for now just talks to the repository. Again, it goes to this interface and ends up down here inside our new genre repository right here. And there we have the find all that fails right now. How do we do this? Well, first we need to kind of get a list of all the genres. Now you might think you can just return a list, and let me try and show you how easy that actually is. We can just say _context dot, and what table do we want to get the list from? Well, it's actually the genres table we want to talk to, right? And then you can call toList in order to execute the select query. So this will actually generate an SQL select query behind the scenes for us that returns all genres, but it doesn't return them as genre objects. It actually returns them as genre entities because the genre entities is the way that we represent data in the database. So we have to convert them. We have to change them from entities into genres. Now, how can we do this? Well, let's just try one thing right here. We'll just say we have an entity list right here that's going to be equal to this list we're getting. And then we could go through the list and using a for loop or something, we could go through the list and convert every single item right here. Let's just say we're going to do the entity list right here. And then here we're going to have each entity. Let's just create a local list right here. List equals new list. And let's just call it a list with videos. By the way, don't do this. I'm just going to try and show you, to show you what you can actually do right here. I'll return that list. Now all I have to do is kind of manually say for each entity, let's convert it. So I'll say list.add like this, and then I'll add each entity. So I'll say new genre, and I'll just pass the data into that genre by saying ID equals entity.id, comma, and the next one is going to be name is equal to entity.name, and there we go. Now we pass the entire list, and this looks like a good solution, but actually it's going to bring us some issues later on, and it's not that strong a solution actually, because it would mean you would do a select all right here, and maybe I didn't want the name in here for some reason. I would still select everything from the database and get all columns. And right now it's a very simple example, I know that, but you might have a lot of properties that you don't want from the database actually. But this would just result in reading all the data from the database and then filtering it afterwards and removing the properties. So it would be too expensive. But if that's not how we do it, let me try and show you a better solution right here. What we can actually do is, when you have genres, before you call toList, and I'll just return it directly down here. So let me just comment all of this out so you can see one solution. And now let's make a new solution. I'll do a return statement again. And this time I'll say, I still want the context, I still want the genres, but I want to select something. You know, what we're talking about is a select query here, right? We're going to select something from the database. Now, what do I want to select? Well, when you do a select, you need to do a lambda expression. So what I'll do is just, I will go into the select and I'll say, for each of the genres in my database, right? I want to convert that, and actually let's call it genre entity to explain. For each genre entity in the database, I want to convert that into an actual genre object. Now I'm going to right now take both the ID, genre entity.id, and the name genre entity.name. There we go. And that's the select. So now I'm explaining to the system that I'm going to convert all of the genres when I'm getting them back from the database. I'm going to convert them from entities into actual genre objects before I return them, right? So I get a list of genres back. I'm missing one thing, and that's the .toList. The reason I kind of waited is you're not going to execute the query right here until you call that .toList. So even though I'm putting all this code in here, nothing happens. It just prepares an SQL statement for me, and it's not until I call the .toList that I'm actually going to execute the SQL query, which is in this case going to be a select ID and name from the table of genres, nothing more than that. Now, this time, if I put in and remove the name right here, it's actually going to change and be a select, instead it's going to be a select ID from table genres, right? So it's not going to be select everything in that case. So that's kind of how you do it. Now I've kind of made this so it should work now. We went from a null reference exception to one way to do it, and now to another way to kind of do this where we use the select statement, and that's going to be very powerful for you later on. Let's just try and restart the server and make sure everything is still running before we end the video. And let's just try and refresh the page here, go back to our get genres and just execute the code, kaboomy, and now we are getting back our 2 genres in a list. Perfect, it seems to be running as it should. And if you want to check it out, you can also check the query, select GID and GName from genres as G. So that's kind of the select statement we ended up with. And again, notice we get specifically the ID and the name in our case. So that's it for this lesson. See you next time where we'll dive into the next one, which I think will be get by ID. See you next time. Bye.